So this is the Polygon T8, and it is the top of the line model when it comes to the Polygon line. There are 3 different models that you can choose from whenever you're looking at the line. The brand new T6, the tried and true T7, and the high-end T8. But today I want to focus on the T8 and my experience with it and talk to you about the upgrades that come on this bike. Now the T8 retails for right around $2,399. But really, this bike is pretty much on sale almost all the time. All of last year, I saw it consistently right under $2,000. And I think at the $2,000 price point, you're getting an absolute solid bike. Now, probably one of the nicest things about the Polygon line is no matter which one you buy, whether it's the T6 all the way up to the T8, you're going to be getting the exact same frame. It's going to have that nice slack geometry of about 65 degrees on the head tube angle and 77 degrees on the seat tube angle. This type of geometry is pretty much tried and true, and I find the head tube angle and the seat angle pretty much dialed in. Not having too much slack allows you to still be able to climb efficiently, but also having a 65 degree head tube angle and a 77 degree seat tube angle, it allows you to descend like a monster. And Polygon chose to go with a one-piece unibody pivot bridge suspension. You've got really easy access to all of your suspension points, so any type of maintenance should be an absolute breeze on this bike. And all of the Siskiyou frames offer internal routing, so no matter which one you go with, you're gonna have a nice, clean looking bike. I wanna take a quick break here and just say, if you guys are interested in buying a Polygon bike, check out my links down below. They are affiliated. It does help out this channel, and it's no additional cost to you. So when it comes to drivetrain on the T8, you are going to get a component upgrade on this that you don't see on the other models. You're gonna get the SLX line of Shimano, but let's be 100% honest. And I think if you dig deep into this, the derailleur and the shifter really isn't an upgrade over the Dior. The Dior line is only 10 grams heavier than the SLX line. Pretty much every component that you can find on the rear derailleur and the shifter are the exact same across the board. Now, my personal experience, the feel of the two are the exact same also. But you do get these awesome SLX logos on both the rear derailleur and the shifter. Now on the T7 and the T8, you do get the exact same cassette. This is going to be a Sun Race cassette. It's going to have an 1151 tooth setup on here, and this is going to be a 12 speed. But since this is a Sun Race cassette, you will get an HG hub and not a microspline hub. So if you ever do go to replace this cassette, you won't be able to buy a Shimano branded 12 speed cassette because they all use microspline. You'll have to pick up something like a Sun Race or maybe a VG Sports to be able to replace it on an HG hub. Now, when it comes to tires, you may find yourself with 2 different tires. Now, whatever bike you get, you will have matching tires front and back. But your T8 may arrive with these Schwalbe Hands Damp F tires, or you may find yourself with the V tire Flow Snaps. Either way, they're going to be 2.6 inch tires that are tubeless ready. And speaking of tubeless, the one thing that I really like about all of the Siskiyou T line is that it comes tubeless ready out of the gate. The only thing that you're going to have to pick up are some tubeless valves. The tape is already done for you on the inside of this, so you don't have to worry about that process. The other thing is the wheels are actually pretty nice that come on these bikes. I mean, you're going to get 35mm internal width wheels, which is on the verge of being more of an enduro style wheel. And I find these wheels fit these 2.6 inch wide tires really well, giving you super good grip on pretty much every condition you can think of. Now your T8 may come with either a TransX dropper or a KS Rage dropper post, but either one of those dropper posts I found to be really reliable. Now if you pick up a size small or medium frame, you'll get a 150mm dropper, but anything bigger than that, you'll get a 170mm dropper. Now my only beef with the dropper posts that come on the Polygons are the dropper post lever. I've never been a big fan of them, but I find if you adjust them just right, they do work relatively well. Now on all the bikes you are going to get a Shimano crankset, which is really nice to see. On the large and up, you'll get a 175mm crank arm, and if you go with a small or a medium, you'll get a 170. Now this is going to have a 32 tooth chainring that's specifically designed for 12-speed setups. Now, if we're going to name one last similar thing that comes across on all of the Siskiyou line, that is the Entity cockpit. And you're going to get a 35 millimeter stem that's going to have 780 millimeter wide Entity bars, along with their Entity lock-on grips. Now let's talk about stopping power, because stopping power is actually a pretty big controversy when it comes to the Polygon T8 on Facebook. There's a lot of people that wind up getting this bike thinking that they're gonna always have spec'd with Shimano brakes. But just like with the tires, you may see a different brand of brake. But don't worry, because I've used both the Shimano MT401 brakes that you see right here, or the Tektro brakes that you could get whenever you order your T8. That's just another one of those components that they can swap out as needed depending on the amount of supply that they have. And then, like I said, I've used both the Tektro brakes and the Shimano MT401s, and I can tell you, I can't tell a difference whatsoever. Both brakes are going to come with 4 pistons front and back, and they're going to have 180 millimeter rotors. And honestly, the lever feels absolutely identical. Now let's talk about the Fox Float DPS. Now, some may look at this as an upgrade, and some may look at this as a lateral move from the T7's RockShox Deluxe Select Plus. Me personally, I love the RockShox Deluxe Select Plus that comes on the T7, but I have found that the Fox Float DPS really does feel about the same. Now, looking online, you may find some people that claim that you need to replace the seals in this more frequently, but it's really hard to say. I haven't ever personally had issues with the Fox Float DPS, but I do have a friend who rides a T8, and he actually replaced his Fox Float DPS after about a year of riding with it with a RockShox rear shock. So depending on your riding style, your rider weight, and how you like to set up your suspension, the Fox Float DPS may work perfectly for you, or you may find that you want to replace it or upgrade it in the near future. Now on the 29er, this shock is going to give you 135 millimeters of travel. This shock is also going to have a rebound adjustment and a 3-position setting, letting you lock this shock out or open it all the way up. And you do have an air inlet right here, so you can actually fine tune this for your riding weight. And if you don't have a shock pump, whenever you're going to purchase this, I would highly recommend just adding one to your cart. That way you can dial this in and get the suspension set up just right for you. Now, if I'm going to be real honest with you in my review of this bike, everything that I've shown you so far is kind of pretty much even killed. I would say the only real true upgrade that you're getting at this point is to have the extra 4 pistons in the back, as opposed to where the T7 comes with a 4 piston up front and a 2 piston in the back. So having a little bit better brakes is a nice upgrade, but it's not as big as the front suspension. This, in my opinion, is the one major upgrade when it comes to the difference between the T7 and the T8. This Fox Rhythm 34 is super plush. I've been really impressed with this fork, especially since I can compare the T7 to the T8 side by side. I find that the front end on this just feels significantly lighter. Now, I think if you look at the weight difference between the T7 and the T8, that little over a pound weight drop that you'll find on the T8 should all be coming from this fork. Pretty much everything else has been identical. In fact, you should have a little bit more of a weight penalty in the back, considering that you have the 4-piston caliper versus 2. So the weight drop is definitely coming from this fork. And I think a lot of it is the internals of this fork and the aluminum stanchions versus the steel stanchions that come on the T7. You've got compression and rebound adjustment on here, and you can really feel the difference when you start adjusting those settings and get it dialed in really, really well for your type of riding. So if I were to give you my honest opinion between the T7 and the T8, this suspension is well worth the upgrade. Now, when it comes to riding and capabilities of this bike, I have found all of the Siskiyou line to be pretty much dialed in. These things are absolutely perfect for somebody who is starting out mountain biking or somebody who's looking for a new full suspension in their lineup. And really, the T8 is the most nimble in my opinion, and that's primarily due to the front fork and just the weight drop that you get on this bike. But any of them that you look at, you're definitely going to get a very well dialed in bike, and the prices are absolutely insane on all of the Siskiyou T line. After riding a T7 for about a year now and riding this T8 for somewhere right around 3 months, I've got to say, the Siskiyou line is definitely a great value for what you get. So let me go over what I love and what I don't love about this bike. What I love about this bike is quite obvious. I love the Fox Rhythm 34 fork. It's just super nice. It's one of the nicest feeling forks in this price range that I've ever ridden. And the next thing that I love are these brakes. Whether you get the Shimano or the Tektro, having 4-piston brakes on a mountain bike really does make a huge difference. Having that consistent stopping power that doesn't have any fading really is nice to have. And my last thing that I love about the Siskiyou T8 actually goes across the entire line of the Siskiyou T series, and that is the frame. I love the fact that they have a consistent frame across the board, and the only thing that you're having to choose between are the components. This takes out a lot of the challenge when it comes to one being better than the other. You know that you're going to get the exact same frame, and if you choose to buy the T6 and slowly upgrade to something that's as good or better than the T8, you can do that. And I think that's absolutely awesome. Now, as far as things that I don't love about the Polygon Siskiyou T8, it kind of goes across the board when it comes to all of the Siskiyou T line, and that's just the initial weight that you start out with. You start out at a pretty hefty weight, but it can easily be dropped. I've seen people online post images of them having a 31 to 32 pound T8, and it really didn't take a lot of upgrades to get to that low weight. And that's honestly considered a low weight trail bike these days. And the quickest and easiest way to actually drop that weight right out of the gate, buy some tubeless valves, some tubeless sealant, and go tubeless. You'll drop over a pound easily every time you do that. Now, the other thing that I haven't actually touched on in this review that I just don't love about this bike is that this does not use the UDH standard when it comes to derailleurs. So you can't buy a universal derailleur hanger for this. You have to buy a specific one that's sold on Bikes Online's website. I do wish that they would upgrade this frame so you could actually attach the UDH setup on here. And that way, if you really wanted to go crazy on this bike, you could put the new SRAM transmission on it. But until they do that, you're stuck with just the standard old school derailleur hanger setup. And lastly, but the smallest thing that I don't love on this bike is this dropper post lever. I've said it in all my videos, and I've said it in this one already. I would highly recommend replacing this as soon as possible. This will easily get you through a couple of seasons, but once you upgrade to say a P&W dropper post lever, you'll never want to go back. And I think I'm spoiled because of that, where a lot of people find this dropper post lever to work just fine, but I think it's probably because they haven't tried the quality of a bearing driven dropper post lever. So the question is the T8 the right bike for you? Well, maybe not. Maybe the T6 or maybe the T7. Either way, these bikes are absolutely phenomenal. 140 millimeters up front, 135 in the back on the 29er model. And you get an awesome dropper post, wide handlebars, high quality drivetrain on this, tubeless ready rims that are enduro width, and also really good tires. It's really hard for anybody to say that these bikes don't come in at a killer price point. I don't know that there's another bike on the market that can actually compete with this. But if you're looking for a bike that has less travel, you may want to check out their D series. And if you're looking at a bike that has even more travel, you're going to want to check out their N series. Polygon has a huge lineup of bikes that all come in at a super great price. And if you guys have watched this and have become really interested in the Polygon lineup, you're going to want to check out my playlist at the end of this video. And if you decide that you want to purchase your own Polygon bike, I would greatly appreciate it if you used my links below. That lets Bikes Online know that you came from my video, and it comes back and supports the channel at no additional cost to you. All right, guys, if you have any questions on any Polygon bike, hit me up in the comments below because I would love to help pick the right Polygon bike for you. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next one.